Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday School. I want to start off with a quick announcement that we plan on meeting on June 21st, which is in 1 week. So, June 21st at 5 p.m., meet at the church. Bring some dry clothes and a towel because whatever clothes you wear are going to get wet. So, just be prepared that we are going to have a little water party. So, just get ready. Get ready for that. And then also, we will not have a Zoom this Wednesday because I've had issues making it work the past couple weeks, and so we're just not going to do it. And we're going to get ramped up for the 21st, June 21st, 5 o'clock. Be at the church, and we're going to have fun. So today we're going to talk about Psalm 23. And Psalm 23 is commonly a psalm that's read at a funeral because it kind of leads you through different points in someone's life, and it also is a psalm that's commonly prayed because it does include so many different elements, and it leads us to really and truly decide and discern who God can be for us. Because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to know who God is. And quite truthfully, we will never know fully who God is. But we know what we know. And that's why we come into community with other people to hear their stories and their experiences because it's different than ours, and we will know who God is for them and how God is able to do that for all of us. And so let me read it for us real quick, and then let's just go through a few little details. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. And so I would invite you, one, to read this a few times through. So it's Psalm 23. And the version I just read from is the NRSV version, our Sunday School Bibles. But you can read it in different translations. Now, I've memorized it, if you can believe it, in the King James Version, because that's something that I did as a kid and I just have heard it read several different times. And so I know it and I could recite it, but it would not match this, and it would be a little bit harder to understand. But there are some words here that even in the King James Version they're the same. That this psalm has kind of always been a comfort to anyone who's read it, and in the time of a funeral, it's comforting to know that God has always been there. Through that person's life who's passed away, that God was always there, and God was always leading that person to do the right thing in their lives, and that they were being honored into the house of the Lord forever. So that's just a comfort. It's a comfort thing. There's many other reasons why it's read at funerals, but it's also used as a prayer. That in a lot of the Psalms are used as prayers and were written as prayers. And so this is a psalm that leads you through knowing where God is, which is always there. That's where God is. But God leads you down a pathway, down your life, and that you make the decision to follow God or not, and that you feel the rod and the staff. That's what they use to prod cattle and put them where they need to be and where they need to go. Keep them in line, keep them in the herd where they need to be. And so that's comforting. That's comforting to know that if you stray away just a little bit, God's going to be there to tap you back in. And so just think about those times in your life where God might have done that. Because I know it's happened to me a few times. And there's been some times that even though I work in the church, that I might not have the best attitude about some things in my personal life. And so I'm going to get in a little bit of an attitude fest. And God's going to say, hey, we don't do that. Whenever I got back into going to church, it was a nudge by God. And one of my friends and saying, hey, you need to come back. You need to come back now after my little time away. And so it's like, I've always had those little nudges and followed them in my life. And so you might not have had those moments now, but you will. You will. And so it's whether you're into to listening to God and who God is. So read this psalm this week and think about ways that you can put yourself in it. So if it's not that you have had dark times and God has had to lead you back. If it's not that, then what could it be? It could be that God has given you everything that you've needed. You've been given a place to lie down. You've been given food and you've been given water. That your soul has been restored. That you know that your soul exists and that you're working on growing in your faith, growing in believing, and that your soul is being fed by church, by healthy things and presence in your life. You could say that God has prepared a table before me, thinking about communion, that we have been given a holy table that we get to take part of every single week to acknowledge the grace of God in Jesus Christ that was given to us. It's an outward expression of inward grace, the inward grace that we have personally experienced. And we do that outwardly to acknowledge what God has done for us. That you've anointed me and my cup overflows. And then surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And of course it will, because God is always with you. God is always loving you, giving you mercy and forgiveness and grace and all the things God provides, that God is always there. And that your place in the house of the Lord has already been prepared for you. That God is already waiting for you to come home. That God is already just watching you. God watches you all the time. God sees your life. God sees the good that you're doing and is like, that's my kid. That's my kid. They're rocking it. So God is seeing you. God knows what you're doing, and God is so proud of you. And you have these choices that you can allow God to be a part of all the exciting parts of your life. God can be there. You're like, oh God, thank you. Like just crying out to God in thanksgiving for all the good that's happened. Crying out to God and all the bad that may happen. That you know that God is always there and God will always be there for you. And even when times it doesn't seem like God is, even when there are times where you're not being as patient as you need to be. Patience is one of the spiritual gifts. And sometimes those spiritual gifts need to be honed in a little bit. And so truly take this psalm and just pray with it. Pray with it and try to think of an ending to this sentence. The Lord is my blank. I'd like you to try to fill that in this week. The Lord is my blank. And just try to figure that out for you and for yourself and for your life. And that's one of those things that in life it might change. It might change over time. But just sit with that for a little bit as you pray and think about this psalm this week. So I will officially see you soon in 1 week. And I can't wait for us to be back together again.